They say the mountains keep secrets, but I've learned they just don't care about our little dramas down here, which honestly is exactly why I ran off to these hills. I mean, if you'd told me 3 years ago I'd swap my ulcer and my cubicle for 12 acres of weeds, raccoon squatters, and a house with a porch that sags like a tired eyelid, I'd have laughed right in your face. But here I am. Yep, the guy who left 20 years in agricultural tech behind cashed out, early took my penalty like a champ and said to hell with shelf-stable tomatoes that taste like cardboard. I wanted something real, dirt under your nails, basil scent on the driveway, honest work. And most importantly, no committees, no boardrooms, and absolutely positively no damn HOAs. You want to hook? Fine. The first time I met Karen, she looked at my tomato patch like it was leaking plutonium, clipboard in hand, 2 polo shirt henchmen at her flanks, and said, dead serious, "You're undermining the cohesive visual narrative of our community." I nearly sprayed her with the hose right there, but I held back. Barely. I bought this patch up in the Colorado Hills land nobody wanted, not since the 90s. The place was a mess, overgrown wild barn full of raccoons. But I had time stubbornness and a couple tools, so by spring, I had drip lines running neat, raised beds, beans, corn tomatoes that actually taste like tomatoes, basil enough for every pizza joint in Aspen. Even made a sign, Hannes Homestead 2023, claiming my turf, you know. Then came that day, me watering corn, sun beating down, when the HOA brigade marched up the gravel path like it was Normandy. Karen leads tall, angular, her face like she's been chewing on a lemon since breakfast. 2 khaki guys, one snapping photos like a crime scene investigator. I call out afternoon still watering. I get nothing back but suspicion. She points at my garden and barks. "What exactly is going on here?" I tell her. "I'm growing food on my own land, thanks." She starts quoting HOA regulations, talks about extended visual corridors and environmental impact radiuses. I almost bust out laughing. I show her my deed, the boundary line, explain I'm not in fact in her HOA kingdom. But Karen's not deterred. We've received complaints. Your setup creates a visual discontinuity between zones. Visual disconti what? Lady, I'm growing tomatoes, not mining uranium. She waves some laminated HOA pamphlet at me, talks about unified landscape compliance protocols, but I cut her off. You're standing on private land. Unless you got a badge or a warrant, please leave. She grumbles something about consequences and storms off with her goons. You think that's the end? You'd be wrong. Couple days later, plain white envelope shows up. Clear Valley Heights, Homeowners Association return address. I figure maybe another flyer or an apology for trespassing. Nope. Instead, I get a letter telling me my property's been temporarily integrated into some new oversight zone supported by recent consensus from the Clear Ridge Planning Committee. They attach a pastel map with an orange circle around my parcel like some kid drew it in Microsoft Paint after chugging a Red Bull. I call my lawyer Greg Guy, built like a tank, all gravel and zero patience. He laughs, says it's bullshit, and we meet in town. We check the county records. Yep, they actually filed something slapping my land with a temporary administrative overlay. No hearing, no notice. Just snuck it in like a utility bill. Greg's fuming. They're hoping you'll just roll over and comply. Wrong guy, wrong day. We dig up old maps, zoning records, even satellite surveys. Not a single one includes my land in any HOA. In fact, one committee memo specifically excluded me, something about infrastructure incompatibility. I submit a formal challenge, Greg files for an injunction, and we send a heads up to a local news blog. I print every document label, every map, lock them in a binder thicker than a church cookbook. I post a new private property sign at my gate, and I wait. That's when the real pests show up, 2 in a Prius, wearing reflective vests that say Community E-Compliance Team. I'm elbow deep in basil when they creep up, waving a badge that looks straight off Etsy. We're here for a precautionary soil inspection. For what? We're not authorized to disclose that. Are you with the EPA number state number? So you're volunteers with a clipboard. We're authorized by the HOA Environmental Task Group. I laugh. You got 5 seconds to get off my land before I fertilize your shoes. They retreat, but not before snapping photos of my compost bin. Next morning, there's a letter duct taped to my gate Department of Environmental Quality formal notice. Apparently, I'm discharging unregulated nitrogen compounds. I call Greg my soil consultant, and for good measure, my ex-wife's cousin Craig, who owed me from that time I helped hide his boat from the IRS. Craig runs tests every bed compost runoff clean as a preacher on Sunday. Nitrogen levels perfect. State sends a canned email. Thanks for your cooperation. No apology. But that night, 2 a.m., my security camera pings. I see 3 figures in black, cutting irrigation lines, pouring something into the soil. I call the sheriff. By the time he shows, they're gone. We test the soil herbicide, commercial grade stuff you can't buy at Home Depot. Kills everything in a 12-foot radius. This isn't vandalism, it's war. After that, the pressure ramps up. My neighbor Dale, Vietnam vet king of barbecue, big on conspiracy theories, says the HOA's holding an emergency meeting. They call it environmental harmonization, but Dale says it's just code for, let's take his land. The meeting's a circus charts. Graph's a guest speaker who claims my tomatoes are a threat to property values and might unleash invasive species. They pass a motion aggressive as hell to pursue acquisition of my land through community-driven land value reallocation. Translation: we'll harass him until he sells. Soon a man in a blazer with a property relations subcommittee pin shows up, offers $140,000 for my 12 acres house water rights, irrigation, all of it. I laugh in his face. You're missing a zero. He talks about encumbrances and compliance concerns, calls it a generous exit opportunity. I hand his offer back and show him the gate. It gets shadier. Next, 2 independent property transition consultants, think B-movie heavies, show up saying folks are getting nervous. They just want a peaceful path forward. I point them toward the road. After that, I start cataloging license plates, checking my gas tank, sleeping with a shotgun by the bed. Paranoid maybe. But this wasn't meddling, this was a campaign. Greg digs deeper, files records requests. Turns out the deputy registrar who snuck my land into HOA hell had been emailing a woman from Horizon Resort Development's biggest developer in the region, quietly buying up land for a new luxury resort. My place. It's the one patch standing between them and the main state road, the key for utilities water access. Suddenly, all the fake inspections, all the harassment, it makes sense. The HOA isn't running the show, Horizon is, and Karen's just a puppet. Now I go public. Post the sabotage footage online, night vision of the eco-compliance crew pouring poison in my field. Reddit grabs it, blows up overnight. Next, I leak Horizon's investor slides, shows my land as Phase 3 connector contingent on compliance resolution. That phrase, exit opportunity, pops up in both the slides and the Blazer guy's offer. They're all in on it. Reporters show up, real ones. I give interviews, just the facts. Karen flips out, calls me a menace, accuses me of inciting anti-HOA extremism. Stages a roadside protest. Turns out most protesters are Horizon staffers in plain clothes. But now I've got county investigators, state reps, and even a nonprofit sniffing around. Greg pulls more emails, shows cash moving from Horizon to the HOA registrar's office, phrases like accelerated integration strategy and prearranged oversight. They raided the HOA office, seize records, haul away hard drives. Karen's photo ends up in the paper face like she just lost her country club membership. Horizon's execs start resigning and the HOA's PR machine sputters out. Finally, relief. The buffer zone's voided county sends me a certificate. Horizon's planned stall site goes silent. Clear Valley Heights. HOA collapses. Karen, still clinging to her throne, releases one last rant, calls me a conspiracy theorist. But now people are showing up to help. Not with clipboards, but with questions, with support. Students want to study, the soil nonprofits send testing kits, even the local rancher brings a six-pack and offers to weld anything that needs fixing. A few weeks later, Karen's arrested. Charges include tampering, conspiracy, destruction of private property, criminal trespass. Her nephew's landscaping crew posing as the eco team flips and gives up the whole game. Horizon settles fast, public apology fines, and a pile of cash for damages. I rebuild, pay off my mortgage, and launch Freedom to Grow, neighbors banding together to fight back against HOAs gone wild. Last I heard, half the HOA moved out, the other half petitioned to dissolve. Horizon dumped their land at a loss. Me, I rebuilt fresh soil, new tomatoes. A barn full of folks swapping stories about bad bylaws and worse neighbors. At the edge of my property, I put up a new sign. Burned cedar says, "This is free land." No boards, no bylaws, just roots. Sometimes I sit there, muddy boots, cold beer sun, slipping behind the ridge and think, yeah, I didn't start this fight, but I damn sure finished it. Now let me ask you, if it was your land, your roots, what would you have done? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share your story and tell me, where's the line between community and control? And hey, if you ever find yourself up against a bully, be it a board or a billion-dollar developer, remember, roots run deeper than greed.